of that game.
Yeah, what we've been doing is just because I didn't think with our monitor setup, I didn't think they'd be able to keep up doing highlights live. We pre-voiced those game packages, so they still have to do all the work without, forcing the anchors to be on top of every highlight. So it was a way to kind of compromise the skill without, killing our shows.
Yeah, it's a good way to learn all that stuff. So I mean, I can tell you guys work very hard on it.
Tell us about. I told them about you driving down to Cincinnati by yourself in a Channel 10 van to get highlights for us, right? And you even got us post game. I told them that.
Yeah.
Tell them about after college. What'd you do and how'd you get to MLB?
Well, I bounced around a little bit. My first job was actually in Iowa, working for a minor league baseball team, which wasn't Class A at the time as a Reds affiliate. It's in the contraction of minor league baseball, and now it's like a college summer wood bat league. But so it's no longer a professional team. But I worked there for a year. As people will tell you, sometimes you got to start small in this business, and that was extremely small. So I was a PA announcer for that team and a part-time radio announcer. That didn't work out very well as well as I hoped. So I moved back home to Pennsylvania. I worked for a local radio station here, covered some sports for them. My father lived near the Philadelphia area at that time. And in 1997, a regional sports network in Philadelphia launched, which was then called Comcast Sportsnet. It's now known as NBC Sports Philadelphia. I saw this channel and I'm like, I want to work there. They were doing long form sports, kind of like what you guys are doing. Instead of the network affiliates who got 3 minutes a night to do sports, they were doing 30, 60-minute shows. And I just said, I want to be a part of that. So I moved into my dad's house temporarily and wound up getting a job there as an editor, off air, behind the scenes, which I accepted, and I knew it was going to be that way. So I had 2 tenures at that network for a combined 6 years. And right around 2009, MLB Network launches about 100 miles up the New Jersey Turnpike in Secaucus, New Jersey, right outside of New York City. And once again, I saw their product, and I'm like, I want to work there. That's kind of how I've been like ever since college. When I was in college and I was a freshman who had just joined the staff of the radio and TV stations, I saw the upperclassmen who were covering the Division I basketball team, and I said, I want to do that as soon as possible. So if you're highly motivated, it shows. So I wound up contacting MLB Network and got an interview in November of 2010, and I started the next season. And I was there for 9 years. In 2015, we took over production of the NHL network. So now a lot of people who were covering baseball only, kind of like I was talking about before, you're now doing a sport you might not be familiar with. I mean, I was a hockey fan. I knew about it, but there were some people in the building that didn't. But now suddenly in 2015, guess what? You're covering hockey too. So I did 9 baseball seasons and part of 4 hockey seasons. I left there at the end of 2019 to move back home to Pennsylvania, and similar to Mr. Lowry, met my future wife. So I'll be getting married in about 6 weeks.
Really? When's your date?
June 26th.
Oh, I'm the next week.
How about that?
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, to you too.
You have 6 days to talk me out of it after you're done, if you need to.
Well, I'll be in Hawaii, so I might be
nice.
Communicado.
How many Emmys did you win when you were at MLB?
6.
Awesome.
The network. Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Not just me. It was the team.
Absolutely.
We won sports Emmys for the outstanding daily studio show, which is called MLB Tonight. It's the signature show of the network.
Yeah.
It's the show that bounces around to live games all night long, does breakdowns of various plays, has expert analysts from lots of former players, including some Hall of Famers. So that gets lumped into the category with an ESPN Sports Center or any show that's done in the studio on a daily, nightly basis.
Okay.
And in my 9 years, we were fortunate to win that 6 times. And the
Awesome.
network graciously pays for everybody to get Emmy statues. So I have 6 of them. So it's not bad.
I mentioned Jim sent me a PowerPoint yesterday. It kind of explains what he did and what they do. Now is your debut of sharing your screen.
Okay.
A lot of pressure here. Present.
I've been practicing. I got it. Hold on one second here. I'm gonna allow that. And present that. Okay, so everybody sees that?
All right.
All right. Yay.
Go ahead.
So, what Mr. Lowry and I wanted to describe to you guys is that while being on-air talent is great, and a lot of people, I'm sure, aspire to that, and some of you may want to go on to college and do that. Highly encourage that. That's what I did. For every on-air job, there are countless behind-the-scenes jobs in sports television. So we just kind of wanted to give you an example of one of those, which is what I did. And all these pictures here in this slides were taken by me on my phone over the years. Mark, when we get to about like 10 minutes left, let me know, because I'd like to show some video too.
Okay, they'll have some questions too.
Okay, awesome. So I'll try to zip through these.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, here's the building in Secaucus, New Jersey, which Mr. Lowry's familiar with because he remembers it from Channel 9 in New York, right? Which is right across the street.
Yep.
So it's across the Hudson River from Manhattan. I'm going to tell you guys, if this is something you are interested in pursuing for a career, this network hires a lot of young people coming out of college. I looked around one day and I noticed that everybody was about 20 years younger than I was. And they're all great. I would even make a joke sometimes that our edit department was the Syracuse University Alumni Association.
Right.
So there are opportunities out there. Hopefully there still will be in 4 or 5 years when you guys are ready to graduate college and get out into the world and want to do this. So over the 2 networks, they produce up to 26 combined hours of live shows. MLB Network's first live show of the day is at 10 a.m. And if it's not interrupted by any coverage of live games, it can go until 2 a.m. So usually from at least 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day, there's live programming on MLB Network. And on NHL Network, it usually starts at 4 p.m. Then sometimes there might be coverage of a live game, or they might stay on the air from the studio. This all kind of culminates late in the night with the wrap-up highlight show. For baseball, it was called Quick Pitch, or it still is. And for hockey, it's called On the Fly. And that's when they show extended highlights of every game that took place on that day. Now, the highlight show could start as early as 10:30 or 11 p.m. if there's not many games. It usually starts at 1 a.m. So that means your typical workday is 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. Once again, this is only one job, but sports are played at night, right? So most of the games are at night. Games are on weekends. So usually during the week, I would have been working at night. Sometimes that leads to quick turnarounds on the weekend, like working till 2 a.m. on a Friday night and then being back at 1 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon. So it's not all flowers and candy. I mean, it's a grind sometimes.
Sure.
You will know what game you have to cut before your shift. So on a typical day, say a Wednesday, when I know I'm working at 6, I've known since at least the night before, maybe even longer, what game I have on Wednesday. And, say it's the Reds and the Pirates. Well, I have time during the day to research my teams. Some valuable resources for that are the local newspapers, the Cincinnati Enquirer, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. I just check out their sports sections on their websites, find all the baseball articles, see if I can find some tidbits that I might be able to use. Who's in a slump? Who's just got called up? Whose parents are going to be at the game? What matchups seem relevant? And then when you get into work, here's a rundown, an example.
Kind of looks like ours.
Does it really?
No.
Okay.
No. It's on paper.
Okay. Well, this was actually I actually took this picture during the taping of a show. So anything that's in red has already been shot. Everything that's in white and gray is about to be shot. And my name's over here for stuff that I edited. So on this particular night, this is for hockey. So I edited a montage, which we call an in bump, as a kind of a preview for my game between the Stars and the Ducks, Dallas Stars and Anaheim Ducks. And then I did the highlight of it, which was 3 minutes and 46 seconds. So when you get into work, you check all the rundowns, see how many versions you have to cut. Usually there's a couple for a 7 o'clock show or a 10 o'clock show, and then there's the wrap up show late at night. Over the last couple of years that I was there, starting in 2018, there was a lot more online content. There were highlights for Facebook, and then in 2019, our operations with MLB.com came together, so everybody was in the same building, and we had versions to cut for MLB.com and Facebook and television. So by the 2019 season, you weren't getting out of there without cutting like 7 or 8 versions of one game, which can range from 30 seconds to 7 minutes.
That's great.
So, and this is the most fun part right here, and Mr. Lowry would say, so you're watching your game. I mean, you're watching baseball. There's a lot worse things you can do in life, despite the hours. And you might see up here, there's team animations. So for this particular game, it's the Yankees and the Red Sox. This was actually the first game of the playoffs in 2018. And I would always keep score of the game as I was going. As I say here, take detailed notes. And anytime something happens, write the time code down, because that's how it's being ingested into our system. And I assume that's what you guys have when you shoot, right, Mark?
No, we have the independent clips.
Okay.
And instead of flying bars, we shoot our hand after something good, so we could just go back through and pull in what we need.
I see.
Jim mentions time code. You're watching the Indians game. Someone hits a home run.
Right.
And yes, it happened in the bottom of the third, but you look at the clock and say it happened at 7:48:20. So that way, when you go to look for the highlights, the time is stamped on the video itself that matches up. So you can fast forward to 7:48:20 and find the highlight.
Yeah, time codes are extremely important in the world of editing. As you progress into this, should you do that, I mean, you'll see it happen. It's pretty much universal at news stations. And so I would keep score of the game, and after every play, I would write the time code down. And that could come into play later, just for editing the longer highlight, but also a producer could say, hey, Mike Trout has 4 hits tonight. Can you just cut a VO of Mike Trout's 4 hits? Well, okay, I have it written down on my scorecard what times he got the hits. And I can just go to the feed of the Angels game and type in 1925. There's his first hit. 1945. There's his second hit. And I can cut that VO in a matter of minutes. And it goes on the air right away. So it's very important to take detailed notes as you're logging the game. You probably do that now as you guys are going out to shoot your tennis matches and your volleyball games. If not, you should do it. Just keep detailed notes. And as Mark said, throw your hand up so you know what an important play is. And we also have a side computer to put up the official stats, which, of course, are extremely important. If Jose Ramirez hits a home run for the Indians, you need to know that's his 28th home run of the season. You'll need to write that in your shot sheet. So at those networks, they do 2 types of highlights. The standard one is the VO, which you're familiar with, voiced by the anchor. What makes MLB Network special, though, are the SOT full highlights. And this is what I mostly did and what the people there now still do. This is telling the story of the game almost like a 3-act play from beginning, middle, and end. And you're telling the story through the voices of the announcers as it happened. At the networks, we're fortunate to get the broadcast feeds of the home team and the away team, plus the television announcers and the radio announcers. So we would have typically 4 options for which announcer to use in a given call. And I was very proud that I could do these SOT fulls with no wasted words. Every word meant something. And that's what you guys should strive to do when you're editing a package. Every word should mean something. Every piece of video, every frame should mean something. Progress the story to the next thing. Now, you might say, wow, that's great. Doing a SOT full highlight sounds like a lot of fun. How much time do you get to do it? Well, you got to be editing as the game goes on, which is a little farther advanced than what you guys are ready for yet. But someday you will be if you keep up with this. So you're editing as the game goes on to meet all these deadlines. Say MLB Tonight, the Emmy Award-winning show. They want a VO highlight at 10:30 of your game. And you also have to have a SOT full highlight for a quick pitch at midnight. Well, this is prioritizing is huge, and you just got to be editing as it goes on. And here's one of the greatest examples ever, which was a highlight that I cut of Game 7 of the 2014 World Series, the Giants and the Royals. This aired no more than 20 minutes after the final out. I almost want to say 15. And that highlight is almost 9 minutes long. And, well, I didn't do it by myself. I had a little bit of help, but that was mostly me. And that you just got to be cranking. As soon as the first thing starts, you're editing it. You're laying it down. And that's the only way to not fall behind. So let's see.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, well, it can be stressful. That's for sure. It's like anything else. You get into a routine, and it's intimidating early, but once you figure out the steps and the procedures, it can be done, and it's done every night. Here's an example of a VO highlight and a shot sheet. I believe, Mr. Lauer, you've shown them shot sheets before?
Yeah, theirs look just like this, Jim.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, it is. Okay. I never know.
Well, I mean, the three columns are headed to the game at least. Yeah.
Yeah. So so you guys know this then. The situation, action, result. Some of these here are in parentheses, like second period and replay. Anything that's in parentheses is like a guide for the anchor. It's like a roadmap, because at these networks, the anchor is usually not on the set by himself or herself. There's usually an analyst, sometimes two analysts. So the anchor will describe the play with the words that I've written out for them. It's not an exact word for word script. We're kind of just writing the basics because, I mean, these are professional anchors. They know how to put the right spice onto what you're seeing. We put capital letters for player names and team names, and then the parentheses is kind of a roadmap because we'll show replays after each goal or after each big play. The replays are where the analysts shine, and that's where they do their talking. And usually when the next play begins, then the anchor takes back over and starts reading the next play. So you guys know much about that. Now here's one of my favorite things. Not all highlights follow the same formula, and it's a long season, so you can get creative. This is highly encouraged because there's 15 baseball games every night on a normal night. I mean, it's 15 highlights in the show. Teams play 162 games. So the actual major league season is something like 2,430 games. They can't all be guy gets a base hit, run scores. Guy hits a home run, 3-run home run.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. They can't all be that. There are some games, especially come midsummer, when a couple of teams might be out of it, where it's time to get a little bit creative. And luckily, MLB/NHL Network really encourages that. ESPN does too. So here's an example of the Houston Astros playing the Seattle Mariners, and they were wearing throwback uniforms to the year 1979. So I thought, well, Houston, Seattle, it's kind of a dud of a game. It was the middle of the summer. Houston wasn't that good that year. And I said, hey, I knew they were wearing throwbacks because I had seen the Seattle broadcast promote it a couple of days before. So I was ready for this. and I said to my highlight supervisor and the producers, "Hey, I got an idea. If they're wearing 1979 jerseys, why don't we like do some 1979 facts and tie them in?" Uh, so this happens to be one where I'm showing an ISO of the Astros pitcher, and well, in 1979, another Astros pitcher led the league in strikeouts. Uh, so I mixed in maybe 3 or 4 of those throughout the game, and it made the highlight of what would have otherwise been a pretty ordinary game, and
Sure.
came up with various 1979 facts. Did various things like this throughout my time. One of my favorites was the late great Yogi Berra, who, when he was still alive, went to a Yankees Mets game. He was about 88 years old at the time, and maybe you don't know, but Yogi Berra was known for saying weird things, like it's not over till it's over, and nobody rides the subway because it's too crowded. Things that just didn't make sense, but because they came out of his mouth, it was funny. So on his birthday, he went to a game between the Yankees and the Mets, 2 teams that he used to manage. And I said, "Well, this is great. We're doing a Yogi Berra highlight now. We're going to incorporate some of his famous quotes, and we're going to tie them into the game." Like, it gets late early out here in the seventh inning. And so a few times a year, I got to do various things like this. I remember before a game that featured the 2 teams who were in the 1980 World Series. I had one of the craft editors doctor up the video to make it look like a 1980 game of the week. Just various things like that. And this is where research and planning can help. You'll get more creative as you go along. Not every highlight, needs to be situation, action, result. Yeah. It's fun to play with things a little bit, because at the end of the day, it's just sports. I mean, it's serious to them, but it's supposed to be fun. So, let's have fun with it.
You said you wanted to show some video, Jimmy?
Yeah, we run out of time already.
Yeah, we're getting.
Okay. All right.
I just want to make sure we have time for questions, but I don't want to get belled.
I'll get you this. This is the last regular season game I ever did. The Giants and the Dodgers in 2019. I'll just say this had 2 major stories going into it. It was the final game for the Giants manager, Bruce Bochy. He had already announced that he was retiring at the end of the season.
Right.
And the second thing is Madison Bumgarner of the Giants was about to be a free agent. We didn't know it was going to be his last game as a Giant, but everybody kind of thought that. And there were a couple of other stories through this game, too. I'll just show you an example. This is a shot full, runs about 5.5 minutes.
All right, perfect. I want to see it.
Okay.
Jimmy, I think you got to turn on your mic, because that's how we get the sound from it.
Can you hear that?
No, play it again.
Okay. My mic is on. I don't know what's up.
Yeah, it's not. The audio's not coming through. Is that link in your slides?
No, it's not.
Email me that link and I'll show them after.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Yeah, I'll do that. I'm surprised because I can hear it.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't come through on this end. Welcome to my year of teaching.
Well, I love that game for several reasons.
Go ahead and stop presenting.
Okay.
There you go. Now you're back to normal.
Okay.
You guys,
well, that's a shame that didn't work, because I love that game for several reasons, because there's actually very little actual baseball in it. You might have caught at the beginning. There was a little pregame ceremony for the manager who's retiring, and he's got his grandchild there, and he brings in his adult son to throw out the first pitch. One thing, if you wind up working in a field like this, that producers are going to tell you is that producers love reacts. Producers love reacts probably more than the actual game itself. And say, Tiger Woods makes this long putt and he does the fist pump from his ankles. I mean, producers love that stuff. And every time that would happen in a baseball game that I was covering or a hockey game that I was covering, I'd be told by the producer, "Don't cheat me on the reacts. If it's a coach going crazy, or if it's players jawing back and forth at each other."
Sure.
I'm gonna go back to the slides here for a second, if I can, and just make a point that's part of the story. And sorry, 1 second here. Okay, here on this middle thing here, comebacks, controversial plays, comedy, tragedy, almost anything you can think of can take over a highlight, and you have to build around it. In this particular case, like, it was a no hitter. Well, nobody plans for that. Then there are other situations where some fan in the stands makes a great catch of a foul ball, and the sideline reporter goes to interview that person, and he says something funny. Well, now you're including all of that stuff. Nothing that you planned for earlier in the day, but it happens, and it's part of the story, and you have to show it. So almost anything you can think of can take over a highlight, and you have to build around it. We'll show you a baseball game later that where something like that happened. So stop presenting. Okay, excuse me there. So it's a lot to absorb in one work shift. As I said, you wind up getting in a routine, and again, this is just one job out of hundreds you could possibly get behind the scenes in sports TV. It seems like you guys are doing great so far, and if you continue this, this is just one example of something you can do.
Okay.
So, Mark, these guys. I have one question first. Are these guys seniors?
Everywhere from freshmen to seniors.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay.
It's a mixed bag. It's the first time we've ever offered this class, so it's brand new this semester. We just started it in January.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, look, I don't know much about Gahanna Lincoln, but I can tell you guys, you're in the most fun class in the school.
So, yeah, right.
So enjoy it.
All right, who's got questions? Turn on a mic. I'm going to turn this one off. Try not to get feedback.
So
You guys got to turn down your volume on your keyboard. Especially you, Courtney. Turn down the volume on your
I'm on mute. I'm sorry. Okay, so like, did that like routine that you always got in, like you have to stay till like 2 a.m, did that ever like get annoying, or like watching baseball every single night, like doing the same thing?
Yes. We're all only human, so yeah, it does. I will say though, when you're first starting out, and if you're really dedicated to this business and in this line of work, you're willing to eat those sacrifices. I certainly was, and I mean, if this is something you really want to do, there's going to be some bad hours, and there's going to be some weekends that you have to work. It is rewarding in the long run. If you go on to college and cover major sport for your college radio TV stations, yeah, you might be spending your Saturday driving to a road game and getting back, a little late at night. I promise you, it's worth it in the long run. It's a much richer experience to do that than to just go to another party or go to another social event. Does it get old? Yeah, but you get into it knowing that it's not going to be perfect, and there's a lot more good to it than bad. And again, this is only one example. There are people who work at these networks that do work days, but
right. But the action happens at night,
Yeah, I mean, I was one that preferred to work while the games were going on. So the games were at night and on the weekends. So,
okay.
Good question.
Another question. Someone turn on their mic. Brendan, go ahead.
All right. So what are you doing like now that you're not working at the MLB network and the NHL network?
Good question. Well, mostly grocery shopping. I moved home to basically get married and move in with my soon-to-be wife. If the MLB Network was in Scranton, Pennsylvania, I might still be working at it. But I have a thing in sports that may be happening. I can't really talk much about it because I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement about it. I don't even know if it's going to happen or not, but it could be a social media sports thing. Until that happens, I've been basically trying to work in an essential job, and I've been doing online grocery shopping. So I work for a company called Instacart. So that's hopefully temporary, and but it's good. I'd like that during this time I've been able to help people. And honestly, in March of 2020, if I had still been at MLB, I left in November 19. If I had still been there in March 2020, I think there's a good chance I would have been laid off anyway, because I know they had some cuts. They had some deep cuts because baseball, like a lot of sports and businesses, lost a lot of money when they lost all those games. So could possibly be still in sports in the near future, but not right now.
Another question. I do.
Okay.
How sick of I love baseball.
Right.
I couldn't watch 6 hours a night every single night as much as I love it. Like, yeah. Do you watch games still? The reason I got out of TV is in 1997, the Indians are hosting the All-Star game, and back then we had to run tapes up and down the hall.
Right.
And everybody's at the stadium except the producer back at the station, which was me.
Of course.
Sandy Alomar hits a walk-off home run to win the 97 All-Star game. And while everybody's cheering and celebrating and horns are blowing outside, I'm pissed because I got to run down the hall, grab the highlights, bring them back to the edit deck, add the home run, and then run them back down the hallway. And as I walk back to sports, I'm like, you freaking hate sports. Like, this happened to you. You need to do something. And within a year, I was out because I didn't like sports anymore. Do you still like sports?
Yeah. I do not watch it as intensely as I used to. I did order the extra innings package on the cable.
Yeah. Awesome.
But I don't sit down and watch a 9-inning game anymore. I see over the years there were certain announcing crews that I like to listen to. So I will, when my fiance is like in the shower or in another room, I'll put on a game for 20 to 30 minutes. But and hopefully it's in the late innings. I can see the end. But she's a casual sports fan. We do watch some things together. I mean, we watched the Final Four. We watched Penn State football games. We watch basically big stuff. But the
is Penn State football considered big stuff?
Well, last year was not. No.
Hey, I was at that game when OU beat them a couple years ago. I was there.
Oh, yeah.
Up in Happy Valley. Yeah. Okay.
Well, we did watch the OU MAC tournament and OU Virginia basketball games this past March. We did watch those.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Any other questions for Jim? Javen and then Josh. And then we'll wrap up. Javen, go ahead. Wait, let me turn down the speaker. Wait. Okay, go ahead.
All right, so like your last game, like commentating, like did it set in like you was like, dang, this is really my last time? And like did you feel some type of way about it? Or was you just like, all right, man, I get to get out of this?
I was a little sentimental about it. Nobody knew. I told them about 2 weeks later that I was leaving. Long story short, my fiance and I got together in October of 2018. And it was a long distance thing because she was here and I was 2 hours away. Around Christmas time, I said to myself, just to be sure, I'm going to do one more baseball season and then I'm going to go home. So I worked the whole 2019 season knowing that I was going to be leaving at the end of that year. And yeah, most of those days, I would say to myself, man, I can't wait to go home. But on that last game, which I tried to show you guys, I don't know why it didn't work, but and hopefully you'll see it later. That last game, I was like, wow, yeah, this is it. Now, It wasn't my last game, period, because I stayed and did the playoffs in the World Series. But that was my last regular season game. That was the last Facebook highlight I had to do, if I remember right. So, yeah, once it got down to like mid-September, I started, reflecting and feeling, wow, this is really it. What a run I've had here.
Sure.
So,
right.
Good question. Yeah.
Josh?
Do you think that it helps to be in a sport that you're like a fan of, or do you think it's just more about having a general knowledge of sports in the broadcasting kind of world?
Being a fan is a huge help. Yeah. And it was a giant help to me, just because I knew a lot of the history. I knew a lot of the trends. I knew a lot of the current players. So, yeah, being a huge fan helps. Sometimes that's out of your control. Like in Columbus, they still have the memorial, right, Mark?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a major, well, not a major, but a semi-major golf tournament in Dublin every year. I don't know anything about golf. I mean, I know how it's scored. I don't know anything about what clubs to use, and hardly know what's a good shot and a bad shot. I mean, if it doesn't go in the sand, it's a good shot in my world. But sometimes I have to, or would have to, write and edit golf highlights. That's where it does help to just know a little bit about it. Know that, watch Sports Center, learn the terminology. So, yeah, being a fan is a huge help. But if you go to a station in a market like Columbus that has a lot of diverse sporting events, I mean, there's soccer, there's football, there's all the Ohio State athletics, there is that golf tournament. I remember I had to shoot a tennis tournament one time. You're just going to have to know a little bit about a lot of things. Naturally, what you're a fan of, you're going to know more about. It does help to go to a network that covers a specific league, and having been a fan of that league for my entire life, that was a huge help.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jimmy, thanks for your time.
Hey, my pleasure. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I will email you that.
I'll share that video, and I'm going to share those slides in our Google Classroom, so they'll have access to all of that.
Okay, great.
All right, and congrats on your engagement.
Yeah, and you too. Very happy for
you. And I will send you a link that you'll be able to download this.
Okay, great.
All right, thanks, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. Everybody, keep grinding. Keep doing a great job. If you enjoy it, do it in college. Go to the radio TV station in college, your first week there, and ask them how you can be on the staff, and they'll be happy to have you.
That's how you do it.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you,
All
Mark.
right, see ya. Bye.
Bye.